Welcome to Matt's Wild Point of View. Today we're going to be doing this just a little bit different, guys. I had footage from earlier this spring that got ruined due to a bad microphone. Rather than throw that footage away, I decided, I can just dub my voice over this. It's still going to hold just as much relevance in the fall for you guys hunting turkeys as it did in the spring, or anybody who catches up with this next year for spring season as well. So I always have my son with me when I'm doing this stuff, guys. It's so important to teach your kids where the food comes from. Whether we're gardening or we're cleaning a turkey or cleaning a deer, he's always out there and he's gaining knowledge all the time. So what we're going to start with is we're going to start by removing the tail fan. Most of you guys are going to want this to mount. There's other uses for the tail fan as well. You can use the feathers for the back of your atlatl darts, or you can keep it as a whole fan and you can use it with your decoys, and that works great as well, your other turkey decoys. So what I'm doing here is I'm making an incision just below the tail fan and just above the anus, and I'm finding the perfect spot to cut through right between, basically I call them the vertebrae back there, but once you get into that you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll see some skin and meat on there. You need that to hold the fan together, so don't worry about trying to clean that out with your knife. You're going to end up curing that meat anyways when you go to mount it. I love giving that stuff to my kid. He's just amazed by it no matter how many times we go through this. I was the same way when I was that age. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the beard here. And as you can see, I pulled up the skin so I can actually cut under the beard, and I'm not cutting the hairs on the beard. I'm actually cutting the skin and meat just under the beard. That's going to hold all the hairs together. If you don't do that, it will fall apart. You're going to cure that as well if you're mounting it, so don't worry about the excess on there. I'm explaining that I got a bucket of scalding water there, but it's only a 5-gallon bucket for the video, so I got to cut this turkey's neck off a little shorter than I normally would, just to fit him in there and to make this go quick and easy for us. I'm going to start by cutting through the skin and meat until I find a good vertebrae, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the tail, and I'm going to go right in between the vertebrae, and I'm going to cut a nice ring around that, and the head and neck will pop right off. Try to take your time with this kind of stuff, guys. It's easy to cut yourself, and it's easy to have your fingers on your hand holding the turkey or whatever it might be that you're cleaning in an area that you might cut through with your knife. So always watch what you're doing. I know you can't see exactly what I'm doing back there because of the angle, but I like to remind you guys of this. Pretty much any video I do, I'm going to be religious about reminding you guys to be safe, because I've watched too many people make really quick, stupid decisions, and it always ends up bad. I just like watching my kids' reaction to what's going on, and I really enjoy having him around for this. I can't say that enough. He's so amazed by everything. What I wouldn't give to be able to go back when I was that age. The next thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to remove the wings. And I actually use all of these feathers for arrows and arrow making, but you can make really cool like fly down fans and things for turkey hunting. If you don't know what that is, go ahead and check it out. You can cure the meat and leave the wing together like it is normally, and you can use it to pound the ground while you're hunting and make some really cool realistic sounds that way. I've done that as well. What I'm doing now is I'm breaking the bone at a joint, or I'm not really breaking the bone, I'm popping the joint so I can just cut the wing off cleanly. so I'm not trying to cut through any bone. You can see how quick and easy that goes. I think I explain it a little bit better, show it a little bit better on this next wing. Right now we're looking at my beagle because he's wanting a treat. So as you can see, all I do is make an incision there, guys, where the wing bones come together. And then what you're going to see me do is pop that joint. Just like that. It's so easy and so fast. You don't need to be hacking at them. I've seen a lot of people chop and to break the bones all up with hatchets and things, and really it's just that easy. You can just use a pocket knife. The next thing we're going to do with the bird is we're going to dunk it in the scalding hot water. Now make sure everybody gets back, because the water is very hot and you don't want it to burn anybody. You're going to want to submerge the entire body of this turkey if you can, guys. I know some of the feathers are sticking up, but the body is actually in the bucket of water. And you're going to want to dunk him about 3 times, because you're going to want to make sure all that hot water gets in between those feathers and down to the skin. What ends up happening when you do this is it ends up warming up the skin, and the feathers will pull right out that way. It'll make things go so much faster for you. There's nothing grosser than a wet turkey, I can tell you that. It just looks terrible to me. Something about the wet feathers. So as you can see, the feathers are just pulling right out, extremely easy. I'm not struggling with that at all, and that's what the hot water does for you. In the spring like this, it usually goes even better. There's not a ton of pin feathers on them and things like I've heard a lot of people say that they're worried about. If you do have any feathers left after this, guys, you can scorch them with a torch, and that'll help get rid of them as well. And you're just going to want to continue all the way around the bird, getting every feather that you can and all the pin feathers as well. You're going to want this bird as clean as possible. My son's just fascinated that the feet of chickens and turkeys look the way they do. He keeps telling me that it's a dragon or a lizard. The imagination kids have is just awesome, and I guess, you know, it really does kind of look like that. As you can see now, those little pin feathers that I was talking about are coming out pretty darn easy, and like I mentioned before, those will just come right out with a torch. Alright guys, now we got something a little more familiar to you guys that have bought them in the store. We have a nice clean turkey here, but the work's not done yet. We still have to make a few incisions in this bird. The first thing I'm going to show you guys is that we're going to need to make an incision to get the guts out of the bird. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You just got to be able to get your hands in there and make sure that this bird gets good and cleaned out. I also like to run a hose through the animal when I'm done with it, just to make sure that everything's good and cleaned out of there. There's no excess blood sitting in there. Like I said before, this doesn't have to be a very big incision, guys. This just has to be able to fit your hand in there. You're not trying to cut this bird in half or anything. I'm not going to show gutting this bird on this video, mostly because I've noticed YouTube has a hard time with that, even though it is part of the experience. Just too much blood and nastiness is hard for people to watch. So now we're going to take and we're going to remove the feet. I'm doing the same thing as I did on the wings. You can just see it better now. I'm just cutting a ring around it and snapping it right at the joint. So just cutting a ring around the skin and then snap that joint right off. Obviously I need to run my knife over a sharpener there. Got it, turkey had some good spurs on him. I'm going to follow suit on the other leg, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to cut a ring around the joint, and then I'm going to pop that joint. So now that we've got the legs off, guys, and it's looking more like a store-bought turkey, I'm going to talk to you about all this fat and the gizzards and things that are up front in this bird. You don't want that fat on there in a wild bird, so you really need to get that off of there. I'm going to try to do this away from the camera because it can be kind of gross looking, and I don't want to turn anybody's stomach with this, but that's something that you're going to want to get off from there. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you get into your bird. There'll just be a bunch of fat. You'll see where they grind up their food. You know, any of you guys that know what a gizzard is, you'll see what's going on in there. Just get rid of that. Keep the gizzards to eat, but get rid of all that nastiness up front there. I'll make a quick mention because I'm sure there's going to be some fur trappers that follow some of my videos. And you may already know this, but this was passed down to me and it works great. All of that fat and debris that I'm taking off the front of this bird here is absolutely fantastic bait. You can freeze that and use it in chunks, and there's something about that can't help themselves. All you coyote trappers and other predator trappers as well, that stuff works great. What I'm explaining right now is I pull everything away from the bird because I'm trying to keep the bird as clean as possible. I'm also explaining that when you do that, you need to stay away from the breast meat or any meat that's usable on this bird. It's important to keep your area clean, guys. That's why a lot of the debris I'm taking off this bird is going directly to the ground. It's going away from the meat. Alright guys, and here's our finished product. That's ready for the oven or the smoker, or you can continue to butcher it, whatever you guys want to do. I thank you guys so much for all your support. I thank you guys for following me. I think that it's great that folks like myself are able to share this knowledge and maybe trade some ideas with people that have just as good a knowledge. They might just do it a different way. We'll catch you guys next time.